Good morning, good morning. Welcome to today's live stream. Hope everyone's having a great Friday. Off to a great start. Let's see if we can add some pep to everyone's step this morning. So my name is Sam, and this is Friday's live stream. So how these live streams work is I like to go live, talk about a game that's been on my mind, then we'll move into adding a random game mechanic into it, and then we'll finish off by designing or brainstorming a game concept off of a prompt in 5 minutes or less. So with that, let's jump right into it. Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Biblios, a game designed by Steve Finn. So I don't have the boxes with me anymore because we've condensed it into a small little tuck box. But Biblios is I'd say a bidding push your luck style game, and I probably could end up doing the full rules overview, but how the game works is depending on the player count, you'll have a certain amount of cards shuffled into this deck. And at the start of the game, you have 5 different dice that will be placed on this board here, that each one will be set face up to the pip value of 3, as you can see by like the outlined die on the board. And so that will be in the central playing area for everyone, with all of these dice set to 3. And there will be this deck of cards shuffled, and there will be 3 different types of cards in there. And so you have money cards, which will be able to be used for bidding later in the game. You have point value cards, which will be for getting majority over a certain die color. And then you have adjustment cards, which allow you to manipulate the pip value of the dice out on the table. And how the game works is you will go around having someone be the active player. And you have the deck shuffled up in front of everyone. And so the active player will look at a card. Gotta sneeze, sorry. Phew. Whew. As I was saying, so the active player will reveal the number of cards one by one, equal to the number of players in the game plus 1, which they will do one of the 3 following actions. So if we were playing a 4-player game, the active player will end up looking at 5 cards total. So what they will do is they will decide whether it will go in face up on the table for the rest of the players to draft from in turn order. They will decide if they want to keep it or if they want to place it into the auction pile for once this deck runs out. And so for a turn structure overview, if I looked at this, it's the 1 of red. Maybe I'm not looking to go for red, so I'll put that to the auction in front. And then I look at this, and it's another 1 red. And maybe I want to decide, hey, I'm not going to go for red maybe this game. So I'll put that. And then we got a red 2. And so it's like, okay, do I want this? And then maybe I go for red later. I decide maybe I'll keep that red 2. So the last 2 cards I flip, one will have to go to the center for others to draft, and the last one will go into the auction pile, which we will end up bidding on later in the game. And so we look at it, it's a 2 green. I don't really want that to be into the auction, so we'll face it down. And now we've got stuck with whatever card we flip from the top of the deck, it will end up going into the bidding auction, which is a 1 green. And so from there, we have now claimed 1 card for us to keep. We've committed 1 card to the auction, and we have 3 cards in the center of the table for the 3 remaining players to draft from. So the player to my left maybe selects the green because they want to stick the other 2 with red. And so now at the end of the turn, everyone has ended up with an additional card, and there's been an additional card added to the auction pile. And so once you get through the deck, you'll be left with this auction pile. And so now you have the money that you've drafted in your hand to bid on cards that get flipped up from the auction pile. And so when you're bidding on, I guess I won't go into a full rules overteach, but that's a simple overview of a turn structure. And what I'd like to highlight today is that push your luck element of deciding which cards you want to, based on the fact that you can only see one card at a time. It's sort of that mind puzzle that you're in of like, ooh, I just revealed a 2. I've seen Sally across the table take a lot of blue, so I don't know if I can compete with her, but I don't want to give this to Sally to have her just automatically win blue, because it's right now pip value at 4, and we didn't even explain what happens at the end of the game, but we don't want Sally to win the blue, so maybe we'll put it at the auction and we can outbid her later. And so there's that whole thought process of like the longer, like kind of trying to decide when you want to actually take the card you want to keep, because you know there might be a better card flipped later, or you know if you wait too long you might end up flipping a 1 gold at the end, and that's not super appealing to keep as your own card. So that whole like sporadic thought process that you have whenever you're the active player is my favorite part of Biblios. And so I'd love to hear in the comments below if you even like the game Biblios and what your favorite elements are in the game as well. Hope to hear from you soon. Alright, video 1 out of the way. Video 2, we'll be taking Biblios and adding a random mechanic into it. Yep, I made sure I had to make sure I was explaining it correctly. All right. Video number 2, make sure we're set up for video number 2. My mouse is not being a good mouse today. I'm about to not use this mouse for the rest of the stream. All right, so we got that set up. This is just awesome. All right, we are all set up for video number 2. We are about to find out if the tablet is working today. That was Michaela in the chat being silly. All right, video number 2. Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam. In today's video, we are going to be adding a random game mechanic to the game Biblios. And so how these type of videos work is if I switch screens, we can see in the top right, we have our wheel of game mechanics. And what we're going to do is we're going to spin that wheel, and we're going to hope that it doesn't land on a mechanic that's already in Biblios. And once we get a mechanic that isn't, trick taking. So we now have to go through the ideation process of how we might add trick taking into Biblios. And so what we need to do is finish writing what we needed to write up top. Got to replace the stylus tib for my tablet because it's getting out of control. Is we got trick taking added to Biblios. So we will pull up our phone and set our 5-minute timer, which I might pivot and not even set a timer because I kind of have an easy way to lean into the trick taking element of it. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with Biblios, there's 2 phases of the game. There's the push your luck drafting phase where you'll be flipping cards and claiming ones and allowing others to draft from the ones you've left over. And then there's a bidding phase where you're slowly adding these cards round by round into a pile that later when they'll go to auction you'll bid on them. And so how we would add trick taking into this game is there would be a 3rd phase that once you have drafted all of the cards, you would then do trick taking to see whoever has the most of that suit that they end up with from trick taking would be able, I'm stumbling. So let me reset because my brain got stuck where all of the cards in Biblios range from, I believe, like a 1 to 3 value. So you could keep the money symbols the same and the dice adjustment the same. And what we would have to do is we would have to turn all 5 suits into maybe a standard deck of cards style, like 1 through, say, or ace through king. So that would be what we'd change for each of the colored suits. And then you would do trick taking at the end to determine whoever has the most of that suit wins. We could probably try and play it where the first number of that suit led wins. So if I led with a 3 and someone else played a 3, they couldn't win it. That would be my first way of trying to add trick taking in. So with that thought process, there would be a trick taking round. And so that is my quick brainstorm of how we'd add trick taking into Biblios. So if I switch back into full camera. So our challenge today was to add trick taking into Biblios. It kind of lined up where my brain immediately went to that the 2 phases of Biblios where you're adding cards to people's hands and then you're bidding on cards to discard to get money and sell are the 2 phases of Biblios. So to add trick taking, we just add 1/3 phase instead of adding up the total cards that you ended up with from that bid. The second phase, the 3rd phase, you would then play a round of trick taking where we could even make the cash that you hold on to as trump. And so if you didn't have any of that suit, you would be able to trump in with the coins left over. And so then once the bidding is over, the number values no longer matter, and it's the quantity of that color you have wins the die from total of like that suit. And so that would be how we'd add in trick taking into Biblios. I'd love to hear any thoughts that you guys have from this concept in the comments below. Is there a better way that we could add trick taking or a different way that you thought of? Comment down below what you think for trick taking into Biblios. And if you like these style of videos, they go up every Wednesday. So subscribe so you can follow along and not miss one. Hope you have a good one. This week's weird. I've been stumbling over my words a lot. Don't know why, but that's okay. I'll do minimal cutting up of it to get it relisted, and maybe it doesn't sound as bad as I'm just in my head. But we are ready for video number 3, and we are at record pace today. So if you're new to the channel, the way video 3 works is that we have a random prompt generator that we use, and because my mouse isn't working, I'm going to switch over to, okay, so we scrolled enough, we just have to close the ad. Yeah, that's centered. But thanks, Michaela. You can always be my hype girl. But we will add that and set up for the last video. Everything looks like it's good to go. So one last hair flip. And video number 3. Hi, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we are going to be doing a brainstorm design challenge where we take a randomly generated game prompt and have to design a game around it in a game concept around it in 5 minutes or less. So I gotta reset because I didn't expect that nose itch, and we'll try one more time. Oh, I'm still not used to this mirrored effect. Should blow my nose. Don't have any tissues around. All right, take 2. Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam, and in today's video, we are going to be designing a board game concept from a randomly generated prompt in 5 minutes or less. So if you're new to these style videos, how it works is we'll switch screens, and if you look in the top right corner, this is a screen grab from letsmakeagame.net. They have this really cool tool called their game idea generator that when you click this generate button, you'll end up getting prompted with a genre, rule, setting, and theme to design around. And so what we like to do here in these videos is we'll click the button, set a 5-minute timer, let our brains go crazy, and then recap to what concept we came up with in those 5 minutes. So let me pull up the timer and you guys can sit back and watch the chaos ensue. So we got a tower defense with a single resource, medieval and downfall is our prompt. So we will switch back into our tablet screen and start our timer. And so, a single resource. All right. And tower defense, medieval, and downfall. Tower defense. We haven't really designed a co-op this week, so let's say that it also has to be co-op. Let's write that better. And tower defense, so we got our map. We have our pathing. And we have different locations that we can place things. Then we got our castle here. And we got awkward silence. But we got our castle, and we got our little tower defense. So single resource, how would we evaluate this? I'm thinking that the single resource is some sort of multi-use card deck. And so you would, we'll clean up these. I like the idea of the single resource and the cards fit into locations here. Maybe there's a couple that can sit here. And so in this card deck, the backside are enemies. So that would be the back of each card. And on the front of each card, they would have, let's draw it a little bigger, some sort of cost there. And then they'd have the art of whatever the defense thing is. And it would have an ability. And what else? What else? And so, yeah, so, there'd be an objective to have a certain amount of enemies that you have to vanquish, and we're kind of ignoring the downfall prompt, but that's okay. We'll keep on this idea of that there are different, heroes that, so we'll have so we probably need more spots for these cards to be able to go. We have some sort of counter, maybe. And so the rule structure, I think, of this would be that at the start of the game, you'll shuffle up this deck and you'll draw, say, 3 cards to start. So shuffle. And then draw 3. And what'll happen is that you have to survive the round. So, sorry, I'm getting stuck in my head because I'm trying to pre-plan the thoughts I'm going to say, but we'll just ramble for a second because we have 10 seconds left on the timer, so we'll pause that so we don't startle anyone and recap where we got to and explain what the next steps would be. So our prompt was a tower defense. The rule was single resource. It was medieval, and we ignored the theme. So it's a medieval setting with a single resource. And the concept that we had is the single resource would be this deck that will be shuffled up, and on the back side of each card would have an enemy type, and on the front side would have the tower style units that you can use to protect. And the way the game works is you have to survive the whole deck without having enemy units reach your castle. And so your castle would have 1 health. Not HY, HP. And the goal of the game is to reach the end of the deck without having any enemy units happen. And so once the end of the deck is reached, you would continue moving units round by round until either they're all destroyed or your castle has been sieged. And so the turn structure would be drawing, we'll say, 3 cards, and the top card of the deck is what the enemy is going to be that spawns. And of the 3 cards, you can either choose to discard them for money or build them. And so there'd be a cost associated to each one that you try and build. You'd place it onto the board, and then the enemy unit from the top of the deck would be placed out into the first space on the kind of tower defense row. And so this is enemy 1. And from there, you would then draw 3 more cards, etc. And so these would start shifting and moving through the path, and you'd slowly be building up towers and placing them out on the board. And the towers themselves have a charge sequence, so they'd have a range, charge, and health or something like that, maybe. I think there's probably 2 types of units. There are hero units that can be placed onto the path, and then there are tower units that get placed out on any of these spaces. And so from there, whenever you use an item, the heroes are probably discarded right away, but the towers would have sort of this reset ability where it either takes 2 actions to be ready or 3 rounds to be ready, something like that. And you would go through that sequence and hope to not have your castle sieged upon. And so this is just the baseline of the concept. So what we would need to do to make this playable is we would have to invest some time into figuring out what the backside of the enemy cards are, and then figure out what the 2 different unit types are. And so for arbitrary numbers, I'd probably pick out 3 different types of towers that you can place, and maybe 4 different types of heroes. And then I would come up with 3 different types of enemies, and we'd have to come up with those stats and things like that for the deck. But then I think we could jump right into playing this, and because it's a cooperative, we could try it out solo, and we would follow that turn structure of draw 3, place 1, choose how to, like, you know, keep them in your hand, and the cost to build them would be, you know, discarding cards from your hand, I think would be the rule set. So this might be a solo only type game, maybe not cooperative, but that's where we'd start for this concept. And it'd probably be something that I bring right to the table first instead of Tabletop Simulator. I would borrow the sleeves and cards from Vindication, because I think the square element of all of this, from like the buildings and things like that, I think because you're rotating them, the square cards make the most sense. But that would be the next steps I would take to go from taking, or those would be the next steps I'd take to bring this idea to a playable state. I'd love to hear in the comments below if you had any ideas that you had thought of from this prompt, and if you like this Tower Defense concept or you think it's fun. I'd love to hear that in the comments below. And if you like these style of design videos, feel free to subscribe, because they go up live on my YouTube every Friday. And with that, I want to sign off and say thanks for stopping by. Alright, that's video 3, everyone. For anyone watching live, thanks for stopping by. I hope you have a great weekend and have a productive Friday. And I look forward to going live and seeing you all again Monday.